There are 3 reasons why you want to have awesome ankle range of motion, and it is going to help you have pain-free walking. I'm going to explain the exact process you need. Hey there, it's Marian. It is Monday Moves, and we are going to dive right into the foundational requirements of getting into pain-free walking. Last week we talked about what's getting in the way of that pain-free walking. I know breast cancer patients are under a lot of pressure because they've heard the information about that big 150. That's 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular activity. Now, yes, this comes with the best intentions, comes from amazing sources that have amazing knowledge that are telling you you're going to feel better if you exercise. But that gets overwhelming when you don't have the strategies to get over the gap. The gap occurs for breast cancer patients when there's no process to tell you how to get there. And breast cancer rehabilitation is what fills that gap and gives you all of the information and all of the tools that you need. And in order to help patients achieve success and reach their activity goals, I'm teaching you today how to take that goal and break it down into the foundations so you know exactly what to test for to see where there may be deficits in helping you achieve that activity goal. Now, I've heard your requests, which is why we are getting specific on the level 1 of the Foundations First framework. Now, that framework is what I referred to last week as the structure I use to help patients, help myself, help anyone achieve their activity goals. So the Foundations First framework has 4 separate levels. Now, once you've decided that you're going for those goals and you are going to work on the foundations to see what's causing that grief, where you may need some TLC, we are going to start at the ground level. You need to achieve that first in order to level up to the next steps. That first level, that is movement. And that's where we're diving deep today. We are starting with the ankle because you know what? This is your foundation, and for walking, this is key to make sure what's hitting the ground is able to move properly for a great stride and to keep you balanced on uneven ground. Now, don't worry if I'm going a little fast as we go through the ankle mobility section because I've got something special for you. I've created a Foundations of Walking guide, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. So let's look at what you need in the ankle to support your goal of pain-free walking. Ankles have 4 different ways of moving. We've got plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, inversion, and eversion. Now, here are the 3 reasons why ankle range of motion is so important. Number 1, good ankle range of motion is going to allow proper alignment of your knees and your hips. Now, if your ankle isn't moving properly, you're going to look for ways to compensate when you're walking. And how you're going to compensate is using those joints closest to the ankle first. That's going to be your knees, that's going to be your hips. So they are going to find strategies to compensate for that lack of movement that you have in your ankle. That's number 1. Number 2, when you have good movement in the ankles, it's allowing those muscles to move properly across the joints that they're trying to move. When that force is aligned with the way the muscles are moving, it allows them to stretch to their full extent, which allows them to also contract, giving you better speed and better power. And we all want that. Number 3 reason for great ankle range of motion and why it's so important is to help with balance. Now, this is key for breast cancer patients because some of the treatment that you may have received has long-term side effects that can affect your balance. The body is amazing and has multiple systems always working to keep us safe. When the foot touches the ground, there are tiny little minute pieces of information that's coming up to the brain. Proprioception, that foot is feeling all sorts of things that you're not even aware of. But those signals go up to the brain and the brain says, oh, I'm going to move this way. I'm going to move that way. I'm going to keep me safe. But if that ankle can't adjust with how the brain wants to stay safe, then that's when you're going to feel those wobbles and that's where you're going to feel unsafe. And that's what we want to avoid. I know you're probably compensating by taking shorter stride lengths. You may be compensating by having a wider stance, but that's putting risk on other areas of your body, including your knees and your back and your hips. And we don't want that. We want the ankle to move well. So when the brain signals to say, hey, there's some uneven ground. Hey, I need you to move and keep me balanced. The ankle's able to do what the system is trying to tell it. So let's review quickly the 3 reasons you want to make sure you've got awesome ankle range of motion. Number 1, it's going to keep your legs aligned, which means you don't need to compensate in your knees and your hips because of a lack of ankle mobility. Number 2, your power output and your speed is going to be better when those muscles that are attached to the joint are able to move through the full range, which happens with ankle range of motion. Number 3, and most important, is keeping you safe with proper balance. Your body's going through all those little changes when you walk on uneven ground, and your ankle needs to be able to compensate for what the brain is telling it to do to keep you balanced, safe, and moving forward in the right direction. So here's your homework. I want you to download the Foundations of Walking Guide. It is going to take you step by step through exactly what you need to do to test your foundations of ankle mobility. It's going to give you an overview of the Foundations First framework because this is important so you can see how you're achieving each level and how you're working towards your goal. The other thing that I've put in here as well is to help you work through the foundations for your knees and your hips as well. Yes, we're covering the whole lower limb so you know exactly what's moving well, what might need a little TLC. I want you to send me an email if you have any questions. And of course, I want you to achieve those goals. I want you to move well and be a kick-ass thriver. Have an awesome day.